How optimistic are you now that some schools have finally returned to face-to-face classes? By how much do you think will this aid recovery?
Of course, the resumption of face-to-face classes is most welcome. For one thing, the even though the pandemic is still there, we now have the ability to address it, contain it, thanks to vaccination and other efforts. Of course, it's also clear that face-to-face is superior to other ways of
Mhm.
doing classes. The National Economic and Development Authority has done some estimates on the losses arising from school closure. I recall that recently the NEDA estimated that the resumption of face-to-face can result in additional economic activities translating to about 12 billion pesos every week. That's quite significant.
Mhm. Sir, but other schools have not gone full force yet. Marami pa rin public schools that are doing trial hybrid and saying that of course in November, that is the order by the DepEd. It's still a few months from now. How much pain to the economy is every delay of a month wherein there's no full-blown face-to-face classes, and at the same time, are we actually ready for this when it comes to have we had already put in the resources in our healthcare system to ensure that the children as well as the teachers and staff are now safe?
Yes, that's a good insight, Danny, in the sense that it's also important for the schools to be prepared for full face-to-face classes. We just do not want children to be going to school but facing big risks. And so for some schools, I do understand that the transition is needed. It's not easy after 2 years of closure to move to full face-to-face classes. So for some, there's going to be a transition, and that is understandable.
Mhm. Sir, a very important point is a lot of people are going to be able to go back to work.
Mhm.
Once schools start opening, there are, maraming tao, especially women, that have had to let go of their jobs to take care of the children in the household. How much of an impact is this going to be on the underemployment in the country?
You're right there. As I said, the resumption of face-to-face classes will boost the economy. It will increase economic activity, and I think the estimate done by NEDA takes into account the parents being more productive as their children return to school. The time of parents are freed up so they can allot more time for work and other productive activities. So that's included in the study done by NEDA.
Now, earlier, we did see, of course, Maan's report in Bataan. The school, of course, is implementing remedial classes here. Now, in fact, you have the good NEDA Secretary, Arsenio Balisacan, in July saying that, there's a need to implement internships and makeup classes to avoid irreversible human capital losses. How heavy of a need is it to extend learning time to make up for lost time? And will this even be effective here in the Philippines?
First of all, we do recognize that the problems in Philippine education have been there even before the pandemic broke out.
Mm.
We have been bad performers
Mhm.
in math, in literacy, and the like. And of course, the pandemic aggravated the situation. 2 years of lost learning, very difficult, and hence remedial classes are necessary. How long that will take,
Mhm.
I don't know, but we have a longer term problem. It cannot be fixed in a year or so. As I said, the problem dates back as far back as 10 years ago or even farther. And much has to be done regarding the quality of education. The Department of Education must now give attention to quality. Before the focus has been on building schools, on increasing human resources. They are all important. But even if we do increase human resources, even if we do increase the salaries of teachers, even if we build new schools, but if the curriculum and the quality of teaching are inferior, then the problem remains.
Much of that, of course, hinges as well on the budget that will be set for education. Speaking of which, budget season yet again, some lawmakers now touting the 2023 spending plan as the economic recovery budget. What do you think should be the priority here?
Regarding the budget, education has always received the highest allocation. The question is the allocation within the Department of Education, where to spend the money. And as I said, emphasis has to be given to quality. This doesn't necessarily mean huge additional resources. It's more of a question of finding out the appropriate interventions to upgrade the skills of the teachers. And related to that, reviewing the curriculum to make it more responsive to the times. But in relation to the budget, the best way to look at it is to first identify what the main problems are in relation to the economy. And if we do a basic review, we will conclude that problems include inflation, very high, high inflation, unexpectedly high inflation, the poor performance of agriculture, which aggravates the food shortage, and the problem of a narrowing fiscal space. And that brings us back to the question of the budget. Surely there is pressure to increase the budget not only for education, but for agriculture, for social protection since the pandemic is still there, and for the subsidies in light of high prices. But how can that be done in a situation where our deficit is pretty high and our debt is increasing? It's not a problem. The debt at present is still manageable, but we just cannot risk debt forever increasing. And so that fiscal consolidation program anchored on new revenues is necessary.